It's this time of year where we start to think about the year coming to an end and that we get excited about the new year ahead. And so I was thinking about this from a reflection perspective. So one of the things that actually happens when we start to get to, these milestones or these changeovers, what happens is it's a great opportunity for us to reflect and also set something for the year moving forward as well too. But today, I really want to delve into the art of reflection. And the reason for that is I think that a lot of us can get a little bit scared to spend some time thinking about ourselves. We can get very caught up in the busyness of life and finding things to do, one thing after the other, and not giving us that time and space to sit and actually think about life and the wonderful standout moments that we've had, the joyful moments, the challenges that we've had, and the likes. And so I think that reflection is often something that's pushed aside. Over the weekend, I was talking to a very dear friend of mine, and she's in the same space as what we are at Strong Healthy Women. She works in the fitness industry as well too. And I said to her something about, when we can tap into our feelings and recognize those feelings, we then have the opportunity to learn and grow a little bit more. And she said, yeah, I know, but it is a scary thing. And she said, and I'm well aware of it. She said, and I know that for me personally, I need to spend time doing that, but I just can't sit still. So how would I go about finding or helping myself just sit still? And I said, it doesn't have to be a long time. What you can do is simply just go, I'm going to sit for 1 minute, just 1 minute. That's all it takes. And what I have discovered this year is tapping into my senses, listening more, smelling more. And just recently, I was sitting in a quiet place in a very different environment. I was waiting for someone. So I took the opportunity to get into that reflection zone. But as I was doing that, I heard this real rustling noise in the tree. And it seemed to be like way, way off in a distance. And I thought, what is that noise? And then it started to get a little louder and a little louder and a little louder until eventually this huge gust of wind came past where I was sitting. And it was the first time that I have actually heard how wind started and how it actually came across. And it was just a beautiful moment. But one of the things that happens is when we can sit in that stillness and get into that reflection, it really does give us that sense of peace and allows our nervous system to calm down a little bit. And I think it's really important that we get out of the busyness of life. So it's Peter, Sue, and Sal here from Strong Healthy Women. Girls, what do you think about reflection time?
Well, I think that I'll go, Sal. We both
No,
went
sorry,
together.
you go, Sue. Sorry, no, my reflection was my reflection on the year.
Yeah.
Because I know we had our Strong Healthy Women Christmas party on the weekend online, and towards the end, I know Peter, you were talking about reflection, and you were talking about reflection then, and the joys and the happiness and everything that has happened during the year, as well as the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting thinking about that then. I was actually reflecting and I'm thinking, well, nothing happy has happened this year for me personally. But then I went, oh my goodness, I've become a grandmother.
Not for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to take anything away from that, but it wasn't planned. It was my 17-year-old daughter. And amongst all that chaos was everything that happened with my mum. So I was sitting here and I'm thinking, well, this year has been really crap, for want of a better word, but it hasn't. September was wonderful when we had my grandson was born. Yeah.
And I think, Sue, that Sal, that's where it's really important with reflection, is that maybe you have a set of questions that you ask yourself and you sit down and go through those questions, so you don't necessarily focus on all of the bad things that have happened, so that you can find those moments of joy. So one of the things that we did do at the Christmas party is I said to everybody, I know in typical Peter form, I am going to ask you to do some thinking. And one of the things was, I said, write down your standout moments. And you could really see that moment of, I don't know whether there were any standout moments. I said it didn't matter what it was. And it was about you. Those they could be small, they could have been monumental, but one of the standout moments for me was simply finding and connecting with other people and actually having belly laughs. I haven't had any good belly laughs for years, but this year, oh my goodness, I've had laughs galore. And it's just been amazing. It's been amazing. So the standout moment was simply being around other people who had funny stories to share, and how I could just get into those moments and have a good laugh. Have a good laugh. Sue, you were going to say something.
Well, you and Sal have both pipped me at the post. I was going to talk about the standout moments we talked about at the Christmas party. But I think it was good because I usually do my reflection around, like a lot of people, perhaps New Year, New Year's Eve, reflecting on the year and then looking forward. But you're right, we get too busy and we forget about the good things and sometimes the bad things that happen, because life isn't all good. Let's face it, we have good and bad. Some years, like Sal this year has had some, very difficult times, but she's gone, it's probably been a year of extremes for Sal, because she's had the extreme lows of losing her mum and, the challenging moments with Liv having a baby at a young age, which is challenging for herself, but then she's had the joy of Landon coming into their lives and, bringing happiness. So there's that from one extreme to the other. For me, it's been a year of change because I moved house, we sold our apartment, the whole year seemed to be about selling and buying. And I think that one thing for me is that I do forget what's happened in the year. So I try to write down, and a lot of people do this with journaling, for example, write down what's happened, and then you could use your reflection for that, looking back at your writings for each month and say, well, okay, back in January that happened. Wow, I forgot about that. Or, those sort of things. And I think that looking and reflecting also makes you feel grateful, because as Sal said, it's been a really bad year for her, but there was that shining light of little Landon being born and coming into her life. So, that's something for her to be grateful for. So there's always something, and it's not until we stop, which is very hard to do. I find it very difficult to stop and reflect. And, you do find those little moments of joy. And the other thing is, I think you see things that perhaps you were doing and you think, well, was that really bringing me joy, or was that robbing me of joy? Do I need to let that go going forward? So it can be a really good learning experience, just taking, as you say, a few moments even to reflect. And for me, which we might talk in another video about, but for me, I think going forward, I would like to bring a just that nighttime reflection, just 3 quick questions of, that sort of thing, which will get me into the habit of reflecting more. And it's not always going to be good. We have to acknowledge that there might be some bad times, but what did we learn from that, or how did that affect us?
Yeah. And as I said, reflection doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it doesn't have to be really detailed, but having those opportunities and having some questions available to ask yourself, I think really helps you get into the groove of it. So I've actually popped down a few things, and as I said, we threw this into the ladies at the Strong Healthy Women community and said, what's your standout moments? But I think books, so what was the book that was the one thing that you read this year that, had a massive impact on your life, and I had to go through my library of all of my books behind me. Oh, you can't see them here up on the shelves. They're all the ones that I've gone through this year. And then I go through my Audible list and I have a look at that. My standout book this year for me personally was The Gap and the Gain. It was just a really different way of trying to get into a positive zone. And so we so often stay in the gap of life rather than the gain of life. And it was looking at it from a business perspective, but there was so much psychology behind it that I really, really enjoyed it. You could also ask yourself, what's your favorite podcast show that you listen to, as an example? So, Sue, do you have a favorite podcast show?
Well, I haven't been listening to podcasts lately, but I've got a podcast. But anyway, I do like that one. I do like that one. But yeah, I tend to listen to different podcasts about women, in my demographic, in my age group, and more about fitness and things like that. I think there's one, Becoming Ellie or something like that. And I tend to listen. I don't necessarily read a lot of non-fiction books, or what we used to call self-development books, but I do like to listen to different podcasts or audio books, because I think that's the way I can retain things a bit better. But yeah, I must admit, I used to, when I was traveling from the coast up to Brisbane each week, I would listen to podcasts. But now I seem to have, I don't listen to them quite so much now. But that's not a bad idea, thinking and reflecting on books, and because we read and then we forget what we've read, and there's been some. Yeah, so that's a good idea.
The other thing that you could, in reflection, ask yourself about branching out for the year ahead, taking yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. What is something that maybe you've got planned for 2023 and that's going to be different for you? And, what type of pitfalls might you come across, obstacles, and how might you handle those things? So it gives you the opportunity to spend more time thinking about that. You might even think about the person that's had the most impact on your life this year. So that person may be someone that you're around all the time, and you never really acknowledge that person as that supporting, grounding wonderful person that they are for you. So you might simply just know that they're always there. They're always there for you, but they're having a massive impact on your life day in, day out. The other thing that you could ask yourself is, the funniest or fun moment that you had during the course of the year. That's a great thing to reflect on, put you in a really good framework as far as your mind's concerned. It might be your most challenging moment or your most surprising moment during the year. So, and the one that I thought of was, what's your best investment this year? So often we spend money on things that are essential to life, but we might also be wasting money on non-essential items as well too. And so, by actually focusing in on the thing that we purchased that had the most impact on our life in a positive way, that helps us actually redefine, how we spend money moving forward as well too. And so I actually asked myself these questions that I'm going through with you right now are the questions that I've asked myself recently. And I went, that's an interesting one. And the investment doesn't have to be big. It can be small. And you know what? One of the most, my best investment has been my wireless keyboard and my wireless mouse. So, it's just meant that I'm not trying to use this little tiny keyboard on my laptop all the time. And so it's meant that I can sit more upright. It's impacted my health as well. So it was a great investment. It wasn't expensive, but it was something that it accidentally came into my life. I happened to see that it was one that interacted with my particular laptop, and I went, okay, I'm going to buy that. It wasn't expensive, but it was a good investment. Ladies, what about you? Any other questions you think that we should throw in there that people could think about when it comes to reflection?
Well, as I said before, I think perhaps what did I really enjoy doing, or the opposite? What was something that I just kept doing, and because I felt I had to, or a sense of responsibility or whatever, and that I was afraid to let go of. But at the same time, it was being detrimental to me as a person. So, what were the things that were robbing me of joy? That I don't need to really be doing.
Absolutely. So you got one that you're thinking of?
Yeah, I have. I've got one, and it could be at the top of your reflection list of questions. How have I grown? Well, actually, just a straight out plain question: have I grown or have I not grown? And then it's a yes or no. And you can then go and answer all those questions from that point. Yes, I have. Okay, well, how have you grown? What was your standout as you were talking? What was your standout moment? No, I haven't grown. Okay, what was holding you back? As Sue said, what are those things that you're doing that you don't really need to be doing?
Yeah. That's powerful. And isn't that life, really? I see Sue madly writing there. Sue, is there something that you want to talk about?
No, I'm just making notes on the list so that I'm going to go and answer these a little bit later, because I think that they're great. That's the other thing. This video conversation is going to be so useful to people, because we don't think about the questions we could be reflecting on. We just go, oh, I've got to do a reflection, and my mind goes blank. Yeah. And it might be, whereas having something like this is so easy, and it just, just takes a few moments for you to go through and answering these questions. And it doesn't have to be, in depth. It doesn't have to be a huge War and Peace answer for each one,
No.
but it just makes you think. So that's why I'm writing them down.
And I think too, sorry, I just want to jump in there. So I think too, Peter and Sue, you know, like you've had, you know, we've had journaling and all that sort of thing. And, you know, most of the times the first question that's asked is, how was your day? And if you've never journaled before, or you've never done reflection, you can be very awkward about it, or you can be very basic about it. How was your day? Not good. And that's it. Okay, well, I've reflected for the day. But as Sue said, writing these questions down is going to take the awkwardness out of it, because it's going to make you think, and you've got these questions that you can answer, and these questions can take you to more questions.
Yeah.
Great points, girls. Great points. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's a really good place to start. You know, if you're worried about reflecting and it's not something that you've ever done before, or that you are journaling for the first time, write down a series of questions. They might be the ones that we've gone through today. There might be other things that you hear of. Write them down, and they're the things that you could work through. You don't have to answer every single question every day. It might just be one of those questions that you're going to ask yourself. But I think taking time out and spending time thinking and sitting is such an important aspect of life. Now, one of the things that I personally do is that I think when I move. So I walk of a morning, and that is my time of reflection. So it's not my time for, you know, walking around with other people, although that's very pleasant and everything like that. It's not the thing for me, because it is the time when I'm thinking about, this is the fresh start for the day. I'm about to start it. You know, how do I want to move into this day? What did I learn from yesterday? What questions am I going to ask myself from yesterday? Let me put it aside. It's a day that's gone, but there are lessons. Every single day there are lessons we can learn from. And I think I want to leave it with this thing is that, and the reason that I started talking about my walking was that we do have limited steps and breaths that we are going to take in this life. And so what we want to do is make the most of those steps and those breaths that we have, and taking time to learn each day is part of growing and embracing each day that we have. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Wonderful day.
Thanks,
Have a
girls.
wonderful day, Sue and Sel and ladies.
Thank you.
We'll see you all very, very soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye, girls.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.